It has been suggested that some of the companions participated in the killing of Uthman. Is this true? It has not been proven in any sound way that any of the companions participated in the killing of Uthman, not even in inciting it. And then you take it all in isolation and burn the Qurans and you feel like there's a disaster? Wow, really? And I'm telling you, the meteor, while it's operating, doesn't tell you the details. Why didn't Muawiyah, a very strong Islamic center in Syria, act to save the situation? News of Uthman's killing reached the Syrian army while they were almost halfway there. So they returned to Syria. If this was by order of our master Uthman, then no one should draw their sword from its sheath. Look at this sedition. Every situation in it has a text from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Of course, our master Uthman did not relinquish the caliphate so that it wouldn't become easy for anyone who objected to go and remove the caliph. It's a mistake to give in to them and abdicate. We can't let minorities control the opinion of the majority. They came to him, he met with them, and they sat down. They could have objected or asked questions and he would have answered them. Now the issue is no longer about rebellion. It's about this man having to abdicate. Music, my brothers, wherever you are, welcome to this series, 100 Questions in History, through which we answer the urgent and important questions that have appeared on the scene of our vast and great Islamic history, and with God's help, I ask the Almighty that it may contain much benefit and goodness. Today we are in episode number 19, episode number 0 for those who love classical Arabic. And it is their right. Yes, we reached question 37 in the previous episode. We opened this question but we didn't know how to close it, and naturally we don't know how to close it. We will continue to answer it in this episode, God willing. We are still on the fourth axis, the axis of the rightly guided caliphate. Welcome, Professor Muhammad Al-Harni. May God bless you, our regular guest in this blessed and good series. We are question number 37. Professor Muhammad, we asked you and sought your help last time, and you told us what was best for us, and we participated. Truly, you did not fall short with us. May God reward you. In the previous episode, we asked you how the sedition began. We just entered with a few questions related to the topic, and we discussed the process of rebellion itself. A number of questions arise in anyone's mind, the most important of which are: what was the reason for the rebellion against Uthman ibn Affan? What were the 5 claims or lies that those who rebelled against Uthman were saying? Did any of the Prophet's companions participate in the killing of Uthman? We also asked why Muawiyah, a very powerful Islamic figure in the Levant, did not act to save the situation when the rebellion began. We also discussed what would have happened if the people of the Levant had not risen up. The people of Damascus, the people of Medina themselves, I mean the senior companions who were present, why didn't they also defend our master Uthman? You have honored us by telling us the motives and reasons, and you laid out a very important foundation in the previous episode in order to reach the moment of rebellion against our master Uthman. Please, sir, may God bless you and reward you. I ask God Almighty to benefit us and you with what He has taught us and to teach us what will benefit us. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, and peace and blessings be upon the messenger of God. We stopped last time at the day of the dose, which we can say was the first act of rebellion against our master Uthman. May God be pleased with him. Now I want to clarify things so that we can connect them and not forget them. We are saying that a cultural change occurred, a social change occurred, and a kind of conspiracy occurred. Now we have a new idea that Abdullah ibn Sarbar began to spread, which is the idea that Ali was more deserving of the caliphate than Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman, and that Uthman, this is the one against whom a war of rumors began. I mean, what I want to say is an investigation into the history of our master Uthman and the policies of our master Uthman, and you know the media turns truth into falsehood and falsehood into truth. We mentioned a few episodes ago the famous verses of Ibn al-Rumi. So now there are tribal reasons. The tribal reasons in the atmosphere of Abdullah ibn Sarbar with his order Egypt to go to Medina to raise these complaints to Uthman ibn Affan. I mean, we should not imagine that it was just Abdullah ibn Sarbar's organization, just people with tribal problems, that they would not form a movement, that they would not form a large group, but who would join this meteor wave. Two groups will join this meteor wave. The first group is the extremist, idealistic group. You know, we as the public all remember the days of the revolutions, the Arab Spring revolutions. There were idealistic people who said things like the 3 no's or the 4 no's or the old regime must be overthrown. Some people are naturally idealistic revolutionaries. The moment they hear something, for example, that Uthman made a mistake, they say he must be removed, and
وخفيفة أو ضيقة النفس بتنضم إلى هذا، وينضم إليها أيضا أصحاب المصالح، حتى لو أصحاب المصالح دول يعني يعني لم يكونوا مؤمنين بالإسلام أصلا، يعني ينضم إليها الغلاة الغالين في الإسلام، اللي هو بقى الثورية الهائلة والتدين
deposed. Some people, easily swayed and narrow-minded, join this group. Also joining them are those with vested interests, even if these people weren't actually believers in Islam. Then there are the extreme, fanatical Muslims, those who are all about revolutionary fervor and complete piety. And then there are those with vested interests. The driving forces and important figures remain the ones with effective organization, the ones who know how to develop things. In a way, a delegation, or rather, several delegations, went to Uthman, who was in a village outside the city. It was a normal matter. They spoke to him. He spoke to them. They convinced him. He convinced them. People were coming from Egypt, Kufr and Basra. They convinced him. He convinced them. And then the matter ended with an agreement that the deprived would be given to the people, meaning people who weren't entitled to anything, or whose contributions were meager, and that the spoils of war would be divided equally. Financial demands were made, and the exiled people who were in the Jazeera region or who were in the ports would return to Kufr or elsewhere. So an agreement was reached, and our master Uthman took a pledge from them not to rebel against his authority. So the matter was simple. Our master Ali was present alongside our master Uthman, and our master Ali himself wrote the agreement. So the people should have seen that our master Ali was present and had no problems with the caliphate of our master Uthman. In fact, he himself oversaw the conclusion of this agreement, and they returned to their lands. This was the first step. It wasn't called a rebellion. It was called coming to object and have their problem solved. Yes, but it was considered a kind of rebellion. They didn't file a complaint, for example, through the governor. They didn't go individually. No, they went in a group, meaning a group from this triangle: Basra, Kufr, Egypt, Basra, Kufr, Egypt. Okay, and we can call this the first smooth exodus. Consider it as such, okay, meaning I don't have any problems. We can call it Exodus number 1. Okay, there are no problems, things are over, and the companions are in Medina. There are no problems, meaning people have complaints, and they are resolved. It's like I came to cause trouble, but I didn't know how to cause trouble. Solve all my problems for me. What should I do? You've brought up the verse of the olive tree, meaning, as the Egyptians say, you've gotten to the heart of the matter. Okay, so the group returned. Those going to Basra went to Basra, those going to Kufr went to Kufr, and those going to Egypt went to Egypt. And then, on the road, the group from Egypt, on the road, a man appeared to them riding in the form of someone who confronted them. Here is the beginning of the verse. Conspiracies. Which are the conspiracies from which you can learn about the organization? Or is this someone who keeps appearing and showing up, and then he goes away, and after a while 2 or 3 hours, he goes away. He came, looking around, then walked away. They seized him. Who are you? I am the commander of the faithful's representative. I am the commander of the faithful's messenger to his governor in Egypt. They looked at the camel he was riding and found it was a camel from the arms herd. What does camel from the arms herd mean? In modern terms, it's an official Now these are a group returning to Medina. Then we discovered that the group who went to Basra also returned, and the group who went to Kufa returned. Therefore, as soon as the people from Egypt headed towards Ali, they went to him. Do you see that the enemy of God wrote to his governor to kill us? Come with us, let us go to him. Ali said, by God, I will not go with you. They looked at each other and said, is this the one you are defending? In another narration, it is said that Ali left Medina so that he would not be present or a witness to what I mean. He wanted to avoid becoming a center of power under their control, especially since the idea had taken root in Egypt that Ali was more deserving of the caliphate. But Ali said, these Egyptians have returned, who informed the people of Basra and Kufa, so they returned. In another narration, they said, didn't you write to us? He said, by God, I didn't write anything to you. So pay attention. This return is imbued with elements of conspiracy. What I'm telling you is all based on authentic narrations. So, Professor Muhammad, when the 3 delegations returned, did they meet Ali and then go to Uthman, or is the narration with Ali still ongoing? No, the narration with Ali is with the people of Egypt. Yes, but Ali knew of their return. He knew that the people of Basra and Kufa had also returned. So, 3 things happened. First, there was a message. It was forged on the authority of Uthman, and it was also said that Ali sent a message pleading for their help and asking them to return. Ali denied this. This is what he said. And in a third development, the people of Kufa and Basra experienced something that made them return. They said, we returned to support our brothers in Egypt. He said, and how do you know what happened with the people of Egypt? There was a communication network and a network of contact that brought them back. Of course, this return was the return they saw as necessary to depose Uthman, because the prevailing idea was that if they returned to the provinces, they would be killed. This was Uthman's order, and what was it? This was his treachery and betrayal of them, and this was the fate that awaited them. Therefore, Uthman had to be deposed. The message that was sent was forged to the 3 regions. This triangle all carries the same content. If they return, kill them. Yes, no, we only have one message that we discovered with the people of Egypt. That's it. What happened with the people of Basra and Kufa, we don't know. Yes, we still don't know. But they knew that the people of Egypt had returned. A message reached them, and they said, let's return to support our brothers in Egypt, the people of Egypt. Yes, of course. When I say the people of Egypt, I mean the Arabs who settled in Egypt during the time of the conquests, not the people of Egypt in general. I mean the people who were Egyptian. To be clear, I remember someone, a really ignorant person, who said, we Egyptians were the first people in Islamic history to revolt against Uthman ibn Affan. I mean, you don't know what to be proud of, but let me tell you, we were the first to disbelieve and the first to cause corruption. So, to make people understand, the revolution was led by Arabs who had settled in Egypt, Kufa and Basra. It wasn't from any other people, non-Muslims or non-Arabs. Yes, so when they confronted Uthman, he said, it's one of 2 things: either you bring 2 just witnesses, 2 people who saw me writing, dictating, or confessing, or I swear by God that I neither wrote nor dictated nor did I write anything. But they did, and accept it from him. And that's where it began. Their gathering in the city. The 3 who started gathering in the city said that Uthman must abdicate the caliphate. Here the matter requires careful consideration. First point is, what were the things they accused Uthman of, as you mentioned, what were the 5 lies or accusations they leveled against him? What were they saying? The point is that when these people rebelled against Uthman, may God be pleased with him, we must consider how Islam changed them. I mean, these were Arabs in the pre-Islamic era. Even if we consider people from Egypt, people from Iraq, and people, have you ever seen Arabs in the removal of the tribal chief from his position, or someone demanding the removal of Caesar from his position? What I mean is, Islam spread the idea that this ruler is in his position because of the people's pledge of allegiance, their consent, and their choice, and that it is the people's right, if this ruler is changed or altered, to rise up against him and remove him. I want to say that this is the great idea that Islam brought. Even if these people went astray, they exaggerated and erred in its application. But you must be aware of how Islam transformed the Arabs from subservience to their tribes and tribal sheikhs, and from subservience to Persia and Rome, to this level of liberation. So, what are these 5 lies? There are more than 5, and some sheikhs and researchers, including Sheikh Dr. Muhammad Abdullah al-Babin, have a book called The Fitna of the Killing of Uthman. It's a distinguished book because it takes all the narrations related to the fitna of Uthman and analyzes them, determining their authenticity. Say Hassan, Daif, or Hamza. It builds the narrative solely on the authentic narrations, analyzing each one. Therefore, the book is divided into 2 sections of the main narrative and each narration and its analysis. It's excellent and important. God willing, I will refer to this book when discussing books on the fitna. He divided them into 3 categories: things proven to have been used to condemn Uthman, things that came through weak chains of transmission, meaning we cannot be certain they were used to criticize Uthman, and a 3rd category of things that were not mentioned and are unknown. It's based on evidence, but it's well known in history books. Okay, Sheikh, what are the things they criticized Uthman for? Number 1 is that he didn't witness the Battle of Badr. Number 2 is that he didn't attend the Battle of Uhud. Number 3 is that he didn't attend the Pledge of Ridwan, which was a peace treaty that led to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Number 4 is that he burned copies of the Quran. Number 5 is that he protected the land. Look, as a media figure, when I tell you this, Uthman didn't attend Badr. He didn't attend Uhud. He didn't even attend the Pledge of Ridwan. He protected the land, and he burned copies of the Quran. These are 5 established things they mentioned. Yes, let's add to them the things that aren't established, or rather came through weak chains of transmission, like that he beat Ammar ibn Yasir until his intestines ruptured. Oh dear, oh right, and that he exiled Abu Dihar to al-Rabadar. These 2 were reported through weak chains of transmission, and that he favored his relatives with positions and money. So you find yourself faced with the fact that he's still sitting on the throne. No, 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 no. And then you come and tell me there are 10 they were promised paradise. Then you tell me that the companions were pleased with him. What does that mean? What a huge deviation occurred in the history of Islam. And then I find myself becoming bolder, and I start talking. Of course, yes, as soon as you grasp these matters and analyze them, you'll find that some of them were virtues, good deeds, and merits of our master Uthman. But it's the media's tone. I remember during the days of Dr. Morsi, may God have mercy on him, we were engaged in this struggle with a group influenced by the media. Someone would come and tell me he did such, and I'd ask him, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And he'd fall silent. This happened in front of me many times. He says, as soon as you stop and think, is this something good or something bad? Then he realizes that it might actually be something good, but when it was presented to him in the media and repeated so often as something bad, it became something bad. Now, let's say our master Uthman didn't attend the Battle of Badr, but the Battle of Badr was led by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and he the Prophet did not call upon anyone who was ready to go to the Battle of Badr. He said, no one should go unless his mount is ready. So, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, did not blame anyone who did not attend the Battle of Badr. Now, what do you think about the fact that Uthman was among those who were ready and going to the Battle of Badr, but his wife, Ruqayyah, the daughter of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was on her deathbed? So the Prophet, peace contrary, it is a favor indeed. He was going out, and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, allowed him to stay. And indeed his wife died. May God be pleased with her and with all the companions of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family. Fleeing from Uhud is good. Indeed, Uthman fled from Uhud, but God testified in the recited Quran that he pardoned him. Those of you who turned back on the day the two armies met, it was Satan who caused them to slip because of some of what they had earned, and God has forgiven them. Now, neither I nor you nor any of the rebels can be certain that God has forgiven them. So, if I commit a sin and then find out that God has forgiven me, is this a blessing or a deficiency? It means, in the Battle of Uhud, when the verse was revealed, when the two factions among you were about to lose heart, but God was their protector. Our master, Jabir, I think it was Jabir, Subhan Allah, glory be to God, I forgot the name. Anyway, one of the companions said, it was revealed concerning us, the Barnu Harither and Barnu Salamar. Was revealed concerning us, uncle. It was revealed concerning you. Why are you happy? It says, those of you who turned back on the day of battle, when the two factions among you were about to lose heart. He said, because God says, but God was their protector. So he was happy that the verse was revealed concerning him, because it proves that God is the protector of these two groups. So, our master Uthman, may God be pleased with him, was forgiven by God, according to the text. And that's why, later, when one of the Kharijites came to our master Abdullah ibn Umar and said to him, I am upset that God forgave Uthman. He said to him, God has forgiven him, but you refused to accept that, meaning, you are the ones who are not pleased that God forgave him. And then, well, the third thing, let's leave the third thing, and that he was not present at the Pledge of Ridwan. Well, what was the Pledge of Ridwan? Originally, it was for the sake of our master Uthman. I mean, the Prophet went out for the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, meaning he went out intending to perform Umrah. The Quraysh said, he will never enter it for us. So, embassies were sent to him. They sent Abdullah ibn Barkar al-Quzay as a replacement for him. They sent Awar ibn Masad al-Thaqafi to him. Later, they sent Suhail ibn Amr to him, and the Prophet also sent our master Uthman ibn Affan from among them. When our master Uthman was delayed in returning, they detained him, meaning to make him think. They detained him, meaning they delayed him, not imprisoned him, meaning they delayed him. They did not give him an answer. When Uthman was delayed, it became known that Uthman had been killed. So, here, the Prophet pledged allegiance to his companions unto death. So, this pledge was originally for the sake of our master, and that is why there was an incident in which the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, and his companions pledged allegiance to him. He struck his left hand against his right and said, the hand of Uthman. So, what is the problem of the Kharijites with this pledge? What's their problem if he wasn't present? So what about you? You weren't present at the Pledge of Allegiance. He's imprisoned, that's it. He's telling you the meteor, and it's working. It doesn't tell you the details. what does the media tell you? That he didn't enter, didn't go to Badr, didn't attend the Battle of Uhud, didn't attend the Pledge of Ridwan. This is all presented in this way, without any detail, even though each of these is in the virtues of Uthman. May God be pleased with him, and that he burned copies of the Quran. Well, first of all, these three things happened during the time of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. So what kind of thinking is this? Are you more knowledgeable than the companions? The companions who appointed him caliph and pledged allegiance to him, didn't they know about these situations? It's perfectly natural that if these situations were flaws, they would have pointed them out. They were the first people to do so. Yes, they didn't appoint him in the first place, because these things happened before the death of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and that he burned copies of the Quran. We mentioned that in the episode before last, when Uthman learned that people were differing in their recitation of the Holy Quran. He brought the Quran, the collection that Abu Bakr compiled, and from which copies were made for the various regions. He said, every copy must conform to this, otherwise burn it. So, ham is allocation. Ham is the holding of the resource for spending. Or what is the endowment? But what does it mean that he created nature reserves? I'll try to put it in contemporary terms. This man took a lot of land from the state for himself. That's what it means. That's what they understood it to mean, that he allocated lands for himself. Okay, so what is protecting the land? Protecting the land means that now the Arabs who have camels, who have cows, who have, when someone pays zakat on sheep, they pay zakat on camels, they pay zakat on cattle, they pay zakat on sheep. During the reign of Uthman, because the wealth had become very large, the land that Umar had previously allocated for the camels of charity, the land where we graze the camels of charity, was no longer sufficient for the quantities of zakat coming in. So Uthman expanded the protected area, meaning he acquired much more land to accommodate the camels of charity. This is also a justified action, and it is also among the virtues of Uthman. Umar preceded him in this when he protected two areas, al-Sharaf and al-Rabadar. My dear sir, the five things that were proven in a sound manner to be the basis for their condemnation of Uthman ibn Affan. Now, let's take, for example, the idea that he exiled Abu Dihar to al-Rabadar. We mentioned this in the previous episode, but Professor Muhammad, before you move on to the second point, these five arguments that the Kharijites used occurred in a specific scene. He met with them, and they came to him, met with him, and sat down. They were objecting or asking questions, and he answers them, as I recall, meaning this was in the first session, the one I mentioned, where they returned satisfied, having signed the agreement and raised the same points, etc. Yes, when they heard these responses, they signed and agreed that they wouldn't cause trouble. He would answer them, and they would acknowledge it. Yes, there are no problems. Yes, but now, when they returned after it became widespread that he had ordered their killing, the issue was no longer about leaving. I mean, the issue was no longer about discussion and persuasion. It became about this man having to abdicate. Yes, that was their second return. Okay, but now, when we say they, we are trying to understand how rumors were being spread to incite people against Uthman ibn Affan. And of course, when you say that Uthman convinced some of them, or convinced their delegations or their leaders, it doesn't mean that these rumors stopped. No, they continued. So, if five things were established, these five things were proven to be the basis for their condemnation of Uthman. After that, he said that Abu Dihar was exiled to al-Rabadar. We mentioned in the previous episode that Abu Dihar was sent to Medina because of his opinion on money. Uthman brought him there and declared that he was obedient and compliant. However, the Prophet had instructed him that if he reached the mountain of Salar in Medina, he should leave the city. So Abu Dihar chose to stay in al-Rabadar until he died there. There is an authentic narration from Abu Dihar's wife who said, "By God, Uthman did not benefit Abu Dihar, but Abu Dihar himself chose to reside there." Where is al-Rabada located, Professor Muhammad? Is it near Medina? I don't know. Yes, it's close, not far. It's close to Medina. Yes, not far. Good, but I don't know exactly how many kilometers it is. Yes. Okay. And they said that he struck Amr ibn Yasir until his intestines ruptured. There was a disagreement between him and Amr. They say that Amr wanted to enter upon him, but Uthman's chamberlain refused. Amr insisted, so the chamberlain struck Uthman. And then when Uthman found out, he also struck Amr. This is enough to show that he is weak. And even the narration tells you that even if his intestines were ruptured, Imam Ibn Arabi al-Maliki says that if his intestines were ruptured, he wouldn't have lived afterward. The narration itself implies someone had someone pulled out of his stomach. How could he have lived then? Yes, he wouldn't have lived afterward, but this narration is weak. But I want to say, sir, even if we assume that Uthman was wrong, or that he was preoccupied, this doesn't justify rebelling against Uthman. May God be pleased with him. Furthermore, another narration states, "Here is my hand for Amr, let him take retribution from me." This is in the narration that says Uthman's chamberlain struck Amr. The rest, his relatives, of the 18 positions, 5 were not appointed simultaneously. For example, Sa'id ibn al-As took over Kufr after al-Walid ibn Ubr. These 5 were not appointed concurrently. Each of them was competent. For instance, Abdullah ibn Amir ibn Qurayz, who was governor of Basra, was a young man of 25, yet he led conquests reaching as far as Afghanistan and overseeing the digging of the Basra Canal. These rebels initially opposed the agreement they made with Uthman. They said, "When we said that justice should be served in the distribution, that the exiled should be reinstated, the deprived should be given their due, that Abdullah ibn Amir ibn Qurayz should be returned to Basra, and that Abu Musar al-Ash'ari should be returned to Kufr." The people of Basra loved Abdullah ibn Amir ibn Qurayz and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. So, these all five were competent. Some of them were even requested by their subjects. One, like Muawiyah, was appointed by the Prophet as his scribe, and Umar, may God be pleased with him, appointed him governor of Syria. Ultimately, you will find no favoritism. After that, no one would object to a ruler appointing his relatives if they were competent, and these men were competent to al-Walid ibn Ukbar, Sa'id ibn al-As, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn Qurayz, Uthman ibn Affan, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Ibn Taymiyyah has a very beautiful statement. We do not know that the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, appointed more people to his governorships than the Banu Abd Shams, who were the people of our master Uthman, due to their competence. These are lies, but as I told you, when lies are told in this way, they create an atmosphere of media incitement. A whole big story and reason is lost. So, we have reached the point where these rebels besieged our master Uthman. May God be pleased with him. Our master Uthman debated with them, meaning he preached to them and advised them. If we are trying to summarize what our master Uthman did with them, we can say that he did 3 things with these rebels. The first thing was that he was keen to advise and preach to them, hoping that they would return. The second thing is that he prevented those rebels who were besieging him from harming him. The third thing is that he refused to relinquish the caliphate and submit to their demands. This is a summary of Uthman's policy. Of course, Uthman did not relinquish the caliphate so that it wouldn't become easy for anyone who objected to simply remove the caliph. We can address these points one by one. If we start from where the issue of him relinquishing the caliphate began. Firstly, Uthman had a text from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Look at this strife. Every situation involved a text from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. This is so that you understand that the occurrence of these strifes and the Prophet's advice regarding them were for wise purpose for Muslims to learn. Yes, Aisha, may God be pleased with her, narrated that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, would whisper to Uthman, so much so that Aisha herself couldn't hear. Then he would say to him, "Did you understand?" So, what did Aisha hear? God may clothe you with a garment, and if the hypocrites try to make you take it off, do not take it off. Okay, this is a sound hadith. Yes, all I'm saying is limited to authentic narrations. I made 31 episodes explaining the fitna tribulation in detail. For those who wish to refer back to it, I strongly advise you to go and watch it. I saw it and it's truly amazing. May God reward you. Perhaps I will publish a book on this topic soon, God willing. God is our helper. So, this remains the first logic, the transmitted logic or the prophetic logic, which is the Prophet's peace and blessings be upon him advice. If the hypocrites want you to depose him, do not depose him. Therefore, we find that our master, Uthman, and all the other companions were not satisfied with Uthman abdicating the caliphate. They were not satisfied with that. Even in one instance, one of the companions said to him, "Why don't you abdicate?" Then Abdullah ibn Umar entered and Uthman, "This man is saying, he is saying, abdicate yourself." Abdullah ibn Umar said, "Are you immortal in this world?" He said, "No." Of course, the idea is, why don't you abdicate instead of being killed? Are you immortal in this world? He said, "No." He said, "Do they possess paradise or hell for you?" "No," he said, "do not take off the shirt that God has clothed you with, lest it become a precedent that whenever a people dislike their leader, they depose him." What does this mean now? If a leader emerges and no one is agreed upon by the people, and every small group goes and decides that if they go out, the caliph should depose himself, then the people will not have a stable system. Therefore, since Uthman is the ruler with the consent of the majority of the people and the support of the majority of the companions, the fact that there are a few who want him to depose himself, even for unjust reasons, means that it is wrong to give in to them and depose yourself. Therefore, these two matters were based on rational consideration, considering the future of the nation, that whenever a group within the nation dislikes their leader, they depose him. No, of course, this cannot be a precedent, and we cannot allow minorities to control the opinion of the majority, or the opinion of all Muslims. But here, the hypocrites, if the hypocrites are the ones who want to depose him, then don't depose yourself. Okay, if those who object are not hypocrites, then I don't want to broaden the discussion. But no, yes, but no. The Prophet's description of them as hypocrites is not what I am telling you. It is evidence that their position is wrong. We remember we said in the last episode that their fitna has 3 stages. A first stage and the last stage, which is the stage of Uthman and those who rebelled against him, and Ali and the Kharijites. A nation's opinion in it is correct, that Uthman is right, Ali is right, and those who rebelled against them are the wrongdoers. That is the stage of confusion, in which he does not know the right from the wrong. It is the stage of our master Ali and his Imam Ashar, Talher and Al-Zubair or Muwir. This is the stage of confusion. So, where did we deduce all of this from? From the hadiths of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, meaning that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, these hypocrites wanted to depose him, and he said, other hadiths, and the killing of a caliph who was patient with the truth, and the killing of a caliph who was upholding the truth and patient with it. Meaning, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, whoever is saved from 3 things has been saved to my death, the Antichrist, and the killing of a caliph who was upholding the truth and patient with it. He says, there are 3 trials, and whoever is saved from them is truly saved. Yes, the death of the Prophet, that he will not be tested after the death of the Prophet, and the Antichrist, and the killing of Uthman. May God be pleased with him. And there are other hadiths, perhaps we will come to them, God willing. But what I mean to say is that we understand that our positions on these events are related to prophetic texts. So the prophetic texts are decisive in that Uthman was on the right path, and decisive in that Ali was on the right path with the Kharijites, and decisive to a lesser degree that Ali was right in the tribulation. Meaning, here he says the hypocrites wanted to depose him, and here he says they will leave and depart from the religion as an arrow departs from its target. This is about the Kharijites, and the one of the two groups that is closer to the truth will kill them. Our Master Ali, may God bless him and grant him peace, said about Al-Hasan, "This son of mine is a leader, and he will reconcile two great factions of Muslims," and he mentioned in describing Ali that the faction closest to the truth would kill them. So he proved that the other faction had a degree of truth and that they had some truth with them. Yes, so look, the scales must be clear to those who are listening to us. The fitna has 3 stages. Excuse me, I'll repeat it again, and please bear with me. The fitna has 3 stages. The first stage, Uthman and the Kharijites. The truth is with Uthman, no doubt about it. The third stage, Ali and the Kharijites. Ali is on the right path, no doubt about it. The fitna, where there is ambiguity, Ali is closer to the truth. Yes, and all of these are prophetic texts. Okay, so, we started with the third thing, that our master Uthman refused to give up the caliphate for these 2 reasons. He had a text from the Prophet, Mount Uhud, and the mountain shook, so he said, "Be still, Uhud, for on you are a prophet, a truthful one, and 2 martyrs." And who was with him at that time? Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman. May God be pleased with them. The Prophet, our Master Muhammad, and the truthful one, Abu Bakr, and the 2 martyrs, Umar and Uthman. I adjure you by God, did you not know that when the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, arrived in Medina, there was no water except for the well of rum? So he said, "Who will buy this with his money and dedicate it to the Muslims, and he will have something better than it in paradise?" So I stood up and bought it with my own money. I adjure you by God, did you not know that I equipped the army of hardship? And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever equips the army of hardship will be with me in paradise." O God, I adjure you by God. And he mentioned things that indicate that if he were killed, meaning if they killed him, then they would be mistaken and criminals, and that he would be in paradise, according to the testimony of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Perhaps they would be deterred, perhaps they would think, perhaps they would return. He says, by God, no. And then he also addressed them with reason, meaning he addressed them with a Sharia, and he addressed them with reason, saying to them, "Spare me and do not shed my blood, do not kill me. By God, if you kill me, you will never return after me as one, nor will you fight with me against an enemy, nor will you fight an enemy as one, nor will you pray behind the Imam." There was no way. This is what happened after Uthman was killed. Sects that emerged were the Shia and the Kharijites, meaning the majority. These groups were never able to restore the unity that existed during Uthman's time. You won't find a Sunni praying behind a Shia, for example, or behind a Kharijite. The Kharijites, by their very nature, consider the rest of the Muslims to be infidels, and you won't find them praying behind a Sunni even if there is a jihad, because ultimately the nation has never returned to its unity since that time. This discussion, Professor Muhammad, took place during their second return. After they besieged him, he heard that they would kill him if he didn't abdicate, and he said, "Why should they kill me when I heard the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, say, The blood of a Muslim is not lawful except in one of three cases: apostasy after faith, adultery after marriage, or a life for a life. By God, I did not commit adultery in the pre-Islamic era nor in Islam. By God, I did not kill anyone. By God, I would not exchange my religion for anything I chose after embracing Islam. So, the important point here, as I told you, was that Uthman's policy consisted of three things. First, he would admonish them. He argued with them, hoping this would influence them. Sometimes it did influence some of them, but the center of the sedition would quickly try to silence, strike, or remove anyone who lost this sympathy. He did not permit fighting them or attacking them. This is evidence of the book's forgery because the companions came to Uthman asking him to allow them to fight them, and the answer came saying, "If you wish, we will be the helpers of God." Twice over, the companions who remained were Ali ibn Abi Talib, the sons of the companions, and others. But Uthman always said, "I command whoever sees that he must listen and obey to put his sword in its sheath." This is the answer to the question, why didn't the companions defend him? This question is wrong, young people. There's no such thing as why didn't they defend him. Do you mean the companions just sat and watched while Uthman was being killed? They didn't defend him. That's how they portray the scene. No, it's not like that. And if this was by order of Uthman, no one would draw their sword from its sheath. Yes, and I ask God, a man, remember God, a man, his blood is spilled, meaning no one spills his blood. So, our master Uthman was, and our master Ali, when he was later defending himself, when they said to him, meaning how could Uthman be killed while you were in Medina? He said that Uthman was an imam, meaning Uthman was a caliph. He was a leader, and that he said, "Let no one defend me." He ordered that. So, this was the opinion of Uthman. May God be pleased with him. But here there is a very important point. Professor Muhammad Tamim, hypothetically speaking, meaning that our master Uthman killed him or ordered the companion. Surprising, our master Uthman isn't fighting them, nor is he abdicating. Sometimes you say, "So, what do you want? Why are you waiting to kill the one you mentioned?" This is important, but let me think again. Look, our master Uthman had knowledge from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that he would be killed in a tribulation. There are hadiths like this. Our master Abu Sa'id al-Khudri was once well, he was free, so well, what he said was, "I will work for the Prophet as a doorman today. So, today, I will work as a doorman for the Prophet." He says, the Prophet entered a garden, and Abu Sa'id al-Khudri was standing there. No one will enter the Prophet's garden except with permission. So, Abu Bakr asked permission, and he said he brought him in, asking permission from Umar. He said, "Bring him in," asking permission from Uthman. He said, "Bring him in to Bishr," meaning bring him in and give him the good news of paradise with Uthman. He said, "Give him the good news of paradise for a trial that will befall him." Another hadith, the hadith of our master Abdullah bin Hawar al-Asadi, who mentioned the Prophet's tribulation and said, "This veiled one will be killed in it." He said, "So I sought out who he was, and it was Uthman." Our master Abdullah bin Hawal saw the narration, and it is narrated from someone named Murrah bin Kab and Kabir bin Murrah, meaning the names differed in the narrations. So, he mentioned the Prophet in another hadith, and the Prophet mentioned a tribulation, and said, "This veiled one will be killed in it." I said this in verse, and he mentioned a tribulation, and said, "So they said, O Messenger of God, what do you command us to do?" He said, "You must follow the trustworthy one and his companions," referring to Uthman. Our master Uthman knew that he would be killed in this strife. He wanted to fulfill what the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, said with the least administrative decision. That's the idea. Now, look, I'll tell you something, and this will come up a lot with us in the strife. You see, God's decree is inevitable in all circumstances. God's decree is inevitable, but you're trying to think about how people with their thinking and minds fulfilled God's decree. Do you understand me? So now, When you say that our master Uthman understood this and knew it, okay, fine. But politically and administratively, what does it mean if we don't have these texts? What is the wisdom of this policy? In my estimation, and God knows best, look, our master Uthman's assassination produced the Battle of the Camel and the Battle of Siffin, and the Great Division occurred because of him. Imagine if Uthman, may God be pleased with him, had allowed the companions to defend him, knowing that he would be killed in the end. How many people would have had a vengeance if the demand was for Uthman's blood? He caused all these problems in the era of the rightly guided caliphate during the time of our master Ali, and all these divisions in the nation. Now imagine if Uthman had been killed, and some of the Ansar and some of the companions' sons had been killed with him. How many battles would we have been facing as a result? Because Uthman had already learned through the Prophet's peace and blessings be upon him will that he would be killed. He wanted to be the only one killed in this strife so that the damage would be as little as possible, even though this damage was already great. But if we consider that our master Uthman would start a war knowing that he would be killed in the end, this war would lead to widespread chaos in the state. In the end, this chaos that occurred in the Muslim nation lasted for 5 years, which is during the era of our master Ali ibn Abi Talib, but the nation reunited again with the Umayyads and the Abbasids. But imagine if many had participated in this battle and our master Uthman had also been killed. Do you imagine that the nation would have completely disintegrated and never risen again? Therefore, you feel that this administrative decision led us to destiny, or rather, led us to the fulfillment of the hadiths of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Yes, yes. So, the siege around our master Uthman began. At first, the siege was light. They allowed him to pray in the Prophet's mosque and they allowed him to deliver the Friday sermon. They used to allow anyone who wished to visit him, but then they began to tighten the noose around Uthman, preventing him from doing so. For example, he wouldn't allow anyone to deliver the Friday sermon or the Eid sermon. Ali ibn Abi Talib, by order Muslims, I swear to God, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said, whoever buys the land of so-and-so so that we can expand the mosque will have something better in paradise. So, I bought it with my own money, and now you are preventing me from praying in it. This news tightened and news began to arrive that an army from Syria, dispatched by Muawiyah, was coming to rescue Uthman ibn Affan. Yes, now we need to answer a very important question. People are asking why Muawiyah didn't act. We answered this a little while ago regarding the people of Medina. Why didn't they act? It was on the orders of the Caliph. Now, let's talk about Muawiyah. Yes, and of course, Uthman offered him the opportunity to go to Mecca. He said, I will not leave the sanctuary of the Messenger of God. So we will fight them. He said, I adjure you by thought, remember God, a man whose blood has been shed. So go to Syria. He refused to go to either Syria or Mecca because, as we said, he had knowledge from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. But he did go. Of course, the man sitting in Syria, Muawiyah, didn't know that Uthman had ordered him to refrain from fighting, that no one should defend him. So he sent an army from Syria. But when this army left Syria, the rebels felt that this army of Syria didn't have the order to refrain from fighting, so as soon as it arrived, it would easily crush them. So they ended up killing Uthman, may God be pleased with him, on Friday, the 12th of Dhu al-Hijr, 35R, and on the night of that day Uthman saw the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and Abu Bakr and Umar telling him to break his fast with them the next day. He was fasting, so he continued fasting. He opened the door and ordered the sons of the companions who were with him to leave. He sat reciting the Quran until they entered and killed him. Meanwhile, the army of Syria was marching, still at the beginning of its journey, but news of its approach reached them before they arrived. Therefore, the news of Uthman's killing reached the Syrian army when they were almost halfway there. So they returned to Syria. Do the books mention when the Syrian army moved from the beginning of the siege? They do. I don't recall the exact dates of the Syrian army's movement, but the correct account is that the Syrian army marched out, and when they received news of Uthman's killing, they returned to Syria. These rebels only went to kill Uthman when they heard about the Syrian army's movement. However, some of the companions were wounded defending Uthman, including Hassan, Hussein, and Abdullah ibn Zubair. A sound account, narrated by al-Baladhuri in Ansab al-Ashraf, states that Ali, may God be pleased with him, he used to defend Uthman on some days, throwing stones at these rebels until his hands grew tired. He said, "Do likewise," meaning the attempts of the last few days before Uthman had this vision, and ordered them to leave. A number of the companions defended him, and some were wounded, but Uthman was killed, and his killer was not known specifically. This is the crisis that our master Ali would face later. He did not know who Uthman's killer was specifically. Yes, all the narrations described a black man, a Roman man, and so on. So, those who were demanding revenge or retribution for our master Uthman, who was our master Ali going to take revenge on? He didn't know who he should take revenge on. Okay, one small thing. Professor Muhammad, before we close this parenthesis, it has been suggested that some of the companions participated in the killing of Uthman. Is this true? Yes, may God bless you. Okay, the short answer is that none of the companions participated in the killing of Uthman. May God be pleased with him. It has not been proven in any authentic way that any of the companions participated in the killing of Uthman. May God be pleased with them, not even in inciting the killing of Uthman. And herein there are two very confusing issues. The first issue is whether some, or rather all, of the companions participated in inciting against Uthman. That's one question. And did some of them participate in killing Uthman? This is the confusion we're trying to unravel. Now, regarding their participation in killing Uthman, there's no authentic narration that proves it. Regarding their participation in inciting against Uthman, here's a point to clarify. Uthman was a man, and perhaps some companions disagreed with what happened between Abu Dihar and Muawiyah. Yes, disagreements occurred, but Abu Dihar knew his limits. He knew that his opinion didn't constitute rebellion or incitement against Uthman. It might happen, for example, when Aisha said they differed regarding Uthman's faults, and I see it as nothing but reproach. But his blood God forbid, meaning that I would have incited that. So, is it possible that some of these instigators of sedition used certain stances taken by some companions who disagreed with Uthman? Yes, it's possible, but this doesn't constitute incitement. Then, for example, we will see what Talha ibn Ubaydullah said, "But I have done something concerning Uthman for which I see no expiation, except shedding my blood in pursuit of his blood." He saw that he had been compromising. Some scholars interpreted this to mean that he had been compromising with the rebels or the insurgents. Others said that he may have disagreed with Uthman on some matters, and these people based part of their incitement against Uthman on this. So he saw himself as obligated to demand vengeance for Uthman's blood. May God be pleased with him. So, what I want to say is that it is possible that some of the companions might have made statements or committed actions that differed with Uthman, but it never happened that they incited against him. For example, people were sitting with Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, but his mother was not Fatima. His mother was a woman from the Banu Hanifa tribe. One of them cursed Uthman in his presence, so he forbade him from doing so. They said to him, "Did your father curse Uthman?" Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah replied, "No, by God, he did not curse him." Never. Or does it remain here? You feel that there are rumors that Ali was cursing Uthman, and we mentioned that Aisha said when they told her, This is your action, O mother of the believers. You incited against Uthman, she said, by him in whom the believers believe and the disbelievers disbelieve. I did not write anything black or white for them until I sat in this seat of mine. So there are rumors that were attached or attributed or ascribed to the companions that they were inciting against Uthman, but no one contributed to the evidence of any authentic narration. Okay, here there are only two ambiguous cases. Yes, so that I remain. These are the important ones, so that I remain. Yes, I mean, I exhausted my effort in this case, the case of Muhammad bin Abi Bakr and the case of Muhammad bin Abi Hudhayfar. Hudhayfar, yes, who is Muhammad bin Abi Bakr? Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr al-Siddiq. His mother was Asma bint Umays. He was born during the farewell pilgrimage. When was the farewell pilgrimage? It was in Dhu al-Hajr of the 10th year of the Hijr, meaning he was born during the farewell pilgrimage. The Prophet died when he was 3 months old, a child. He is not considered among the companions. Of course, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was one of those who incited against Uthman, even though he was raised in the household of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is because Ali married Asma bint Umays after Abu Bakr passed away, so he was Ali ibn Abi Talib's foster son. But look, Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, Ali ibn Abi Talib's foster son, opposed Ali during the fitna civil strife surrounding Uthman, and he also opposed Hassan and Hussein, who defended Uthman. He fought against his sister, the mother of the believers, Aisha, in the Battle of the Camel. Circumstances are ambiguous, as we will explain later. So he is not considered among the companions. It is narrated that he entered to kill Uthman, and Uthman said to him, "You have seized a beard that your father used to honor," or in another narration, "The book of God is between you and me." So Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was deterred and left the house without harming Uthman. He was an instigator against him. Yes, he was an instigator against him among those besieged, but he killed Uthman. No, he didn't kill Uthman. It hasn't been proven. And he's one of the companions. No, he's not considered one of the companions. Okay, there's another one named Muhammad ibn Abi Hudhayfar. His case is a bit more complicated. This is Muhammad ibn Abi Hudhayfar ibn Utbah ibn Rabi'ah. Okay, so his aunt was Hind bint Utbah. His aunt was Hind, so Muawiyah was his cousin, or Muhammad ibn Abi Hudhayfar, same age as Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr. To be precise, it's not appropriate for me to explain it here, but the correct thing is that Muhammad ibn Abi Hudhayfar's father died when he was young, so he grew up in the care of Uthman. This one is also not considered one of the companions. Muhammad ibn Abi Hudhayfar was one of those who incited Uthman. He wanted Uthman to be governor. Our master Uthman saw that he was not qualified, and he responded, "By the way, Uthman favored his relatives, and one of them, who was from his family, was from the Banu Umayyah clan. Uthman refused to appoint him, so he went to Egypt, and there he rebelled against Uthman's governor, Abdullah bin Sard bin Abaisar, in Egypt. Later, he fought his cousin, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, and then he killed Umdallah. These two figures, you might say, you can't say they are not among the companions, but I want to say that their names were mentioned in connection with their killing of Uthman. May God be pleased with him. Neither of them actually killed, but neither of them is considered among the companions. As for the rest, it is not known that any companion participated in inciting against Uthman or in killing Uthman with a sound narration. But both of these names, of course, are not among the companions. They are not among the companions, meaning those who participated in inciting, yes, in the rebellion, yes, and in an Abu Muhammad, we repeat, as we said, entered Uthman and grabbed his beard. Okay, Professor Muhammad, of course, the episode has ended. May God reward you and give you 1,000 blessings. May God bless you. Yes, if we wanted to summarize in 2 lines what we have discussed, what lesson could we learn? Because, and I wish the strife had stopped here. Yes, I mean, if the story had stopped at the killing of Uthman, it would have been fine. I mean, the end is the beginning. It will grow much bigger now, but up to here. If there is a lesson we can learn from it, what could it be? Number 1. Islam did something great in liberating people, in making them understand their rights over the caliph, and in making them understand the caliph's duty towards them. Otherwise, all these people would have been enslaved by their tribes, the Persians and the Romans, and none of them would have thought of rebelling, nor would they have held the caliph or the emir accountable for past actions, even before assuming office. Number 2. The necessity of holding liars accountable and verifying news. If these matters are not observed, they lead to the weakness and collapse of states, nations, and peoples. Holding liars accountable and verifying news and information is essential. The third point is understanding the extent to which a corrupt media machine can turn truth into falsehood and falsehood into truth. These are matters that we can benefit from in our contemporary reality. Yes, may God reward you, Professor Muhammad, and may God be good to you and benefit others through you and convey your message, God willing. So, we stopped at episode 3, and we asked question 37, where we completed the answer to question 37 in this episode, and now we will move on to question 38. But in the episode, the next installment, God willing, is part of the 100 Questions in History series, through which we answer important and pressing questions. Please share this valuable information widely. May God reward you. Until next time, watch more programs about Islamic history and learn about its events, victories, defeats, leaders, scholars, secrets, governance, politics, wars, and battles. Simply follow our YouTube channel, Our History from the Furthest Point in the past to the furthest point in the future. We bring history to life.